Whatever for the recording.
You don't really have to record because we don't go back to these videos much, but for the record, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're doing something more interesting with heat mapping zip codes?
Essentially, zip codes, we're not sure what the final like geographic level is gonna be, but essentially it's like we're taking some aspect of the geography, whether it's a zip code, it might be if it's like if we get enough responses, we might go down to like the census tract or something. But yeah, just being able to like actually pull up a map and say like, oh, these are like right now on the dev server, at least, or no, sorry, the test server, we had some sample responses that were like 2 from Alston, and then like 1 from, it looks like, downtown, another one Back Bay, and 1 in Cambridge. And so it's like you can just sort of like view little just be able to view them on a map. And I'll sort of keep building it out. And this was just like a sort of like super quick thing. I'm gonna try and get it integrated with like docassemble for the rest of the day, and then I'll probably just try and keep building on it for a bit until we're at least happy with it as a mostly a rough way of getting feedback on who is this helping, for whoever starts using.
Are you using Google Analytics or using a different analytics package?
So it's not using Google Analytics at all. It's whenever someone completes the interview, docassemble, like we have the option to just save a snapshot, I think, of some of their responses. And so every time someone submits the interview, we're saving that, and then we can pull that up. And I'm not it's like I can like pull it up using like just some Python geocoding, figure out like, oh, this is the lat longitude of like these zip codes that people are submitting it from, and use OpenStreetMaps to like actually
from the so their zip code is from the data that they put into the interview.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, this is all interview data.
Mm-hmm. I got it.
Yeah, I don't know if we would start like, I don't know. I'm assuming that like, I think we're only saving the data if they actually finish the interview. I don't know if we would also want to do some sort of analytic things for people who have started but didn't finish.
Yeah, I think definitely eventually we'll want to look at things like drop off and that.
Yeah.
But this is just a sort of proof of concept, getting it up. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that other folks who might stand up interviews like we do in other jurisdictions would then have on their back end a way to look at their stats that was more reliable than, say, just looking at the Google Analytics as to who got to the last page. We'd know here is someone who actually downloaded, and then eventually we'll be able to tie in like, did they use the email? Did they, blah, blah. And we've got to be careful about where we draw the line, because we don't want to collect more information than we need to. But those are the sort of things we eventually can think about. So cool. Well, that means Bryce went first. So anything else? Have you run it? So normally we'd go through and we'd say what we're working on, and then ask if you had any blockers. I think we sort of addressed that this morning, and you probably dealt with Quentin on that this morning as well.
Yeah. I synced with Quentin for a bit. The only blocker I really had was just like how best to do like Python or Python development on like with the playground and docassemble and stuff. And I think I had just missed you could edit module files on in Playground, and I was like, I could only find where to edit the interviews. But yeah, so I got that sorted out, and I don't at the moment have any blockers still. So.
All right, if you want to at some point talk about how to work with GitHub and docassemble, it's a little bit different. There are a few gotchas there, so might be worth discussing.
Yeah, Quentin pointed me out, or pointed me in the direction of how to like associate my GitHub with docassemble. And I think I was going to try and do that in a bit. But yeah, if I run into issues,
sure.
I'll ping you.
There are gotchas like if you upload, if you do a pull from GitHub, it will override the files you have locally. So you will lose the work on your files locally. That's what I'm saying. Like there's stuff to know about how to do it so that you don't, experience a fair amount of pain. So
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So what you could do is you could explore and with some bit of stuff that you feel safe with, which is to say that it's not your only version of anything, and then you can interface with Michelle or someone as time allows. Michelle, it's a great segue. What you got going on?
Great segue. So developing a way for the tests to, because this is in MAID, and it's kind of one of the things Quentin is really looking for in MAID. I don't know how this, I'm not sure how this constellation of interviews relates in the space, but wants to be able to test multiple languages. And the way to do it normally with Cucumber is to write a test for every language. So you would write the same test, but for each language, you would write it, the beginning slightly differently. So I'm trying to make something that will generate files that will be ignored based on a list of languages that will test all the languages. But I'm trying to figure out how to make it optional as opposed to required, because otherwise the MAID test especially will take about, I don't know, an hour or so to complete. So, it's got a lot of languages, it takes a lot of time. So it's worth making optional, and in so doing also developing the manual trigger for the workflow, for the testing workflows, so that we can start implementing, like choosing between manual triggers, which I may do through tags, Cucumber tags, tag expressions. Did some stuff with students, I think. I must have at some point. Probably. The coding meeting, trying to kind of on the architecture of assembly line and how we want to set up structurally the difference between those repositories and conceptually. And I think that is mostly it. I'm sure I'll think of something else. I'll let you know when I think of it.
Sounds good. Caroline, I have you next.
I emailed Judith. Oh, wait a minute. Shoot, this happens. Like my Zoom thing gets stuck at the top of the screen. I can't move it. So I emailed Judith and housing people about the grievance representative, somebody, if there is always a grievance, just the question we had about, were you there at the demo yesterday? You were, weren't you? Yeah. So one of the, I can't remember who, Adam had a grievance hearing request. Somebody had a grievance hearing request, and we had some discussion about what happens if the housing authority doesn't have a grievance representative. What do we do about that? So I emailed Judith and our housing unit, Mass Law Reform, about that. And also Quentin said in the 12 years he's been practicing, he's never seen two tenants on one request for a grievance hearing, but he sounded, he didn't want to be the last word on it. It sounded like to me. So I emailed housing unit on that. It turns out we've got 7 short videos on grievance hearings. And we're just,
one of those is making it in there.
We just need our housing people to look at them and sign off on them. But because of the eviction moratorium, everything, nobody's had time. So they're just like ready to go. And I don't know what we're going to do about that. Mariah and I, we were supposed to meet today, but we're having a meeting tomorrow. No, Thursday. So we'll try and follow up on that. But that's pretty cool. I wrote an email to I wrote an email. Rochelle didn't want to give me the addresses for all the community DV advocates. So I wrote a sample email. I put it in the 209A channel to get approval from you and Kate. Quentin's already okayed it because I want to walk the line there between letting people understand why we've completely rejigged it without, and also asking for their feedback on the new, how do they feel about it? Because I think that gives us information that we could use in the future.
I think maybe adding that we are still working on implementing the suggestions they've already given, because there are some changes from suggestions that I think we haven't implemented, and just saying we want more feedback, just to acknowledge that we
Michelle,
appreciate.
the feedback we've gotten from all the advocates we implemented right away.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, that's all
Oh,
done. There's some
okay.
ideas that there's one idea in particular that Kate has, but we didn't go live
I see.
before we got everybody's input
Got it.
in. We made sure
Okay.
of that.
Okay,
So
perfect.
this is only response to court feedback, and we're asking for more.
Yeah.
But I think we
Perfect.
tried to be really responsive to the
Yeah,
DB.
I think yes, and I think that write-up looked good. I realized I hadn't responded, so I just did a nice little thumbs up.
Yeah, okay, great. Because it was just really, is the language an okay balance there? So,
Yeah, I think the nice thing is that at the, like there's this nice, not quite plausible deniability, but little separation, like it's going to come from Rochelle, right? Is that the?
I was going to send it from me because
That works
I'm
fine
saying
too.
it from the team,
Yeah, I think that works fine. I mean, it doesn't. You didn't throw anyone under the bus. You just explained, there was feedback. We're responding to it. And on that point, I did, since it is December, I touched base with the the court this morning, and they responded like, "Oh, we forwarded it on to the right people. I'll remind them again that you guys want to meet with them." And so,
do you want me to send another one to Katie Fabry or whatever her name is?
no, I think this is getting to the DV whatever committee. So
Well, she's on it. But you're saying
exactly.
Don't kind of like over.
Yeah, they're getting it. I'm sure she's already seen it this way. Yes, that is all I will say while we're being recorded.
Okay, all right. And then it's not mass access, but I think it is in the spirit of mass access. As I'm working on this interview from hell, is the obligors. Obligor's response to DOR, child support enforcement, about what they're going to do. And so I'm stuck on this thing with buttons. I posted, and Michelle said we might be able to have a look at it. So I've asked to look at on Teaching Tuesday if we have time then.
I think that's Michelle if she's willing.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
cool.
what I said.
All right then, Luke.
Okay. Don't have a huge amount to report. Me and Michelle have been working on kind of doing the final work on 209A motion to modify. So I think we're pretty close to getting that one done to a point where we would need a subject matter expert to look at it. There's still some stuff we need to do. And then I need to basically just message Anna to get the notes she took for when we did the review on the name change petition, so that I can make those implementations if she hasn't already. And then after my question is, after I make the changes that Caroline and Michelle and Kate all suggested, like what is the next step for the name change petition form? Is it like on to...
So then it would be on to sort of more traditional testing if we've gotten the SMEs and we've incorporated their feedback and they think it's good. Then we want to kick the tires and make sure it works.
Do we not have those steps in the Luke
already started. It's probably in the Trello card.
Yeah, I was saying you started your interview before we had the Trello system set up, but I'm guessing that it would be, you might be able to find it in there.
Okay.
So the new, I think Caroline's referring to the new Trello.
Yeah.
Flow, not the one that we're working
right.
on for the you and I are working on with the finishing carpentry. That's a different Trello.
Okay.
But you can
what
jump
is the other Trello
that
then?
I can link that to you. Just message me.
Thanks.
We basically, so you're still grandfathered in on the old board, I think, working through that. But if you want to sort of peek ahead or peek aside to the new Trello, we have checklists for all of the points. So if it's not on the checklist, it should be added, but this should be this should be there too. And we haven't had anyone on that board really get all the way to this stage yet. So actually there may be things that we need to add in relationship to testing and how we want to do that.
Cool.
So yeah, so that's the context.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. Well, it sounds like just updates, no blockers. Things are going well there. Fun little bit. I believe it was the intention of the appeals court to launch the appeals court stuff today. The form is up and live on our end. So just a question of them pointing to it. So fingers crossed on that one. Yeah, so that's a nice little update. And then Caroline, the Mass Law Reform Resource Finder went live today too.
Yeah, it did.
Post it.
And that one uses our Spot API on the natural language search, which is cool. So they're the second live. It's funny because we now have 2 places in the wild using our beta, which I would really like to move a little further along. I think it's good enough though. It's just that I would like to shrink the error bars on our classifier some more. But actually,
are you still using the Reddit data, or have you been able to use any of the stuff that I shared with you?
Yes, we have used some of the stuff you shared, and we got a really nice data dump from the folks at Pine Tree.
Fantastic.
From Jack. They gave us like a very nice jump. So we're not quite at parity yet. So I think there's still a slight majority of Reddit data in the training set, but it's by no means an overwhelming majority.
I think I have a couple more months. I should have downloaded, today's the 1st. I should have downloaded November's last night or this morning. I should do that.
Yeah,
and October might still be there. So
yeah, I have students working on labeling that data now.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been useful. Yeah,
okay,
but
so I'm gonna dump I'll dump November in there for you.
Yeah, and then just ping me and let me know that it's there, and then I'll have to go and make sure that I know which one's the new one.
It'll say November 2020. So yeah.
But yeah, so those are all fun things. Well, that being said, there's no reason that a stand-up has to last longer than it normally is. So I will stop the stand-up recording.